You did not click into the wrong stream. We are, in fact, live, pal. Andrew Zarian, what is going on, my friend?
I'm back. I had a very relaxing couple of weeks, and I'm diving headfirst into the WBD contract clock countdown. So, right into the insanity of all this, huh?
You know what's funny about this is we just got done talking about who killed WCW and the whole thing about how Bischoff thinks that he's got the sale of the company and
Yeah.
Fusion Media is all in, but then they take away the television and it's just like not this. I don't think any of that stuff is happening with AEW, but at the same time, you're just like, if we can just get this thing inked and then we can kind of put it behind us, because we have been talking about it for quite a long time, and
According to the
hopefully
internet, Garrett, according to the internet and my detractors, I've been speaking about this thing for 7 years.
well, okay, so you have been kind of at the forefront of this and you've been giving information. I don't think you've been proven wrong at any point yet. What is your whole thought process on where we are today based on when you started paying attention to this thing?
So I for full disclosure, okay, the announcement that came out today, okay, Fightful put out that Tony is going to Paris to meet with Zaslav.
Yes.
I think I told you that like off the record, obviously, because if I'm not 100% that I could confirm this with another source that's outside of the same bubble, I'm not reporting it.
Right.
I don't. It's too much of a risk, especially when you add a deadline like this. Like the Mercedes stuff, my process of confirming that was like 5 different people told me at the same time from all different avenues, So I was able to, I knew, and also when someone at AEW tells you, I've never once been told a number for this deal. Okay, so I don't speculate on the number. I know what Tony wants, and that's streaming, pay-per-view, obviously a rights increase, a TV rights, streaming, rights, whatever. You know what? Let me take the money out because it's going to confuse people. What Tony wants is archives, right, on digital. He wants a digital partner, which obviously Max. Now we know. He wants pay-per-views sorted out. I don't know where they're at with pay-per-views at this point because Max still does not have pay-per-view capabilities to charge.
Okay, here's a question about pay-per-views, and I've talked to you about this before. Pay-per-view is the one thing that AEW seemingly can raise if they have something hot. It is the one metric that still is looks pretty good, right? Because TV ratings, attendance, those things have kind of scaled back. They've come down a little bit. But pay-per-views in general have been a really strong part of their business. So is the addition of having your pay-per-view on a service like Max, is that future-proofing the possibility that you can get cold? Is it having the predictable money? You know what you're getting. You know what you have to deliver. Because, just look at what AEW is doing this weekend. They're running like 3 different shows. Tony seems to be flying by the seat of his pants. Like, having the pay-per-view aspect on Max, I think, is going to be a positive thing for wrestling fans. At the same time, it's not like there are 1.5 million people who will jump on Max for the opportunity to watch AEW television. It's a small number by comparison to other things like WWE, for example. There's probably, I don't know how many views WrestleMania did, but AEW running a pay-per-view is going to be a sliver of those subscribers. So that's kind of my intrigue about the pay-per-view part.
A big sliver. If you talk about WrestleMania, right? You could confirm this with Dave, but the number I had heard was 4 million. Around 4 million was the number I had heard, and that it had beat last year's, and last year's was around 3.5 million people. So that's a tremendous number for a pay-per-view. Is it a pay-per-view? Whatever, for streaming, regardless. Really? That's a tremendous number. Whatever you want, even for a regular show, that's a tremendous number. If AEW was doing 250,000 buys per pay-per-view, I think the conversation we would have today is Why would they give that money up? That's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money you're generating. But at 100,000, it's maybe justifiable, and maybe for Warner Media, it makes more sense to give them more of a rights increase and put everything on their service, because guess what? You kind of end up living on the service that you constantly watch.
Okay, so why would WBD do it? If
More
that number
content,
is
watch hours,
okay,
it's another way to lock in somebody that's not going to cancel the service. If you're paying
so
that $20 a month or $19 a month, and you're kind of on the fence after, and I'm using AEW as an example. This could go for any other service, right? I love Game of Thrones. I'm really into House of the Dragon. I, knock on wood, I don't think monthly budgeting to that extent where, okay, when my service is over, I'm going to, when the show's over, I don't need to watch it anymore. Same thing, the Sopranos effect. We would see that all the time with HBO. After the season finale, the subscriber numbers would plummet because people were done. They didn't need the service. If you could create an avenue where you have 52 weeks a year content on there that people are very dedicated to watch, you could kind of eliminate some of that hemorrhaging. You're giving another avenue for people to stay on board for the long term, not until the show expires. So there's different avenues. Obviously, watch hours, when you're kind of building a platform, you want the watch hours also. I don't know if there's an ad element to this, to what they're going to do. I think there will be if Tony gets his way with simulcasting, because that is a big thing that Tony Khan wants, is to be able to simulcast his AEW shows on Max. Again, one-stop shop. You want to have that availability. You want to have that another avenue to get, maybe another 100,000 viewers, maybe another 50,000 viewers, but it's all a positive. I could only tell you what I believe.
Yes. Well, so the flip side of that is, if you simulcast on Max and you can show Max, that even if you're kind of at the mercy of cable, Tony doesn't have too many MJF versus Will Ospreay matches to throw at his TV show to drive that number up.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was risky. But if you can show, hey, my audience will go to streaming, and you can show Max, like, yeah, the cable rating is just going to go down, and down as there are less people on cable. But hey, we can drive viewership on the simulcast. I think that is pretty valuable. The other thing that you said about the PLEs or the pay-per-views, churn is a big deal. If they could show that, hey, AEW has a loyal fan base, they're going to be loyal subscribers to this Max service. It's funny because I was talking to some people, and the trick with these AEW shows is you get a VPN and you go into like the different market or whatever, and then and then you just use the VPN and pay less because it's cheaper in other markets. And I'm like, Tony should just tell them, look at how many of my people use VPNs because they only want to pay $20. There's your $20 a month. They don't need to go to the VPN. They just now go to Max and watch all the stuff on Max.
Yeah, to kind of go back to all of this, right? The deal is, it's not signed, but the hope is that it gets signed next week. And that was always, back to what we were talking about Paris. Zaslav wanted Tony to go. I don't know if Tony was planning on going prior to that, but I do know that was a conversation that was being discussed. We spoke about it off the air. Mm-hmm. I think I told Dave, I messaged Dave that, but when the big boss wants you, he wants to get it done. I know there was a lot of effort to get this done now. There's a ton of people from sports media in Paris.
Of course.
The whole, I mean, these guys aren't going just to watch the Olympics. They're going because this is a business move. Everybody that's somebody in sports media is going to be there. And what a great way for you in a very informal setting to get a lot of these side deals going. AEW plays a big part in Turner's programming. It really does. They are top tier cable programming, regardless of what the internet tells you, as far as viewership goes, where people still look at it as, 1998 numbers for some reason. Cable is dwindling. USA Network had it was 100 million homes or close to 100 million homes. Now it's under 70 million. Same thing for Turner. So as one avenue kind of it narrows down, you need to look at other places. I think streaming is a big part. I think that's why Tony wants it. I mean, I would not be surprised if the deal is done next week. I know there was a meeting on Friday last week about a lot of this, and things were positive.
Do you...
I mean, listen, it's happening. I have no idea the number, though.
Do you think the NBA stuff that they're dealing with these matching rights, do you think that could possibly delay this? Because, I mean, it's kind of funny that both of these things are kind of happening at the same time. So while Zaslav may want Tony out there, I'm sure he's also dealing with the NBA stuff at the same time. And, Team USA is going to be out there. I'm sure Adam Silver is going to be out there. So there's going to be lots of chaos out there. One of the things about the litigation piece of this, I know that Big Dave keeps talking about it, saying how, this could end in litigation. I was reading Matt Bellany from Puck, and he said one of the reasons why he's not sure if there will be litigation is it tells other partners that you're kind of a bad sport, that you don't want to make this public, that you are actively suing another media partner.
Yeah. Now, what's the reality that they get the NBA?
Probably very small, right? Because the NBA just gets to choose. They get to choose who they want to be in business with.
What a send off.
Yeah.
Hey, 30-something-year partner. Oh, by the way, we're suing you now because we matched that offer. The NBA is looking at the future, and the future is obviously streaming. I don't know if it's here today, but definitely in the next 5 years. I mean, listen, Garrett, you are one of the few people that I talk to about this that has been so ahead, right? When it comes to streaming and sports rights and media rights, you're in the tech space. That was my background too. So we see this in a very different way. Is the technology there to sustain, the NBA and the NFL and MLB on only streaming platforms and say hell with linear? No, it's not there yet. That is a high amount of a risk that nobody wants to take right now. But
Bam Tech, baby. Remember Bam Tech?
Bam Tech and MLB AM, right?
Yeah.
They listen, the WWE Network used them and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So the technology is. It's still, there's so many different variables with streaming. So you have to really be careful not to put all your eggs in one basket. But the simulcasting is something that is very interesting to me. And what a great way to bridge you leaving.
Remember when AEW ran one show that you could watch on Twitter?
Was it YouTube or Twitter?
I think it was Twitter. Like there was a Twitter video of Dynamite that people thought, is this an error? Why are we able to watch Dynamite on Twitter? And I'm sure it was just some sort of test to see, how many people would click on the thing. But where we're going is cool to me, because what it does is it gives the viewer more options, and this is what we've always wanted. Now, in having more options, you also have to make choices on what you are going to pay for and what you are not going to pay for. But this is a nice play. Like, if you can pay your $20 a month and watch every AEW pay-per-view or PLE, I think that's a win. Now, if you have to then pay extra, I'm not sure if that's as big of a win, because the one thing that I've noticed about the pay-per-view buying audience, that this is all due to WWE going behind their network originally. People are a little more skeptical about paying for something, knowing how easy it is to pirate stuff. Like, I don't like even thinking about how to find the right link and how to switch off the right link. The one funny, the only time I've done anything like this in recently, there was the Conor McGregor fight, and ESPN's Plus service was like locked up because it was taking so many orders and none of us could order the thing. And I remember I was talking to I think I was talking to Moxley going like, do you have a link to this thing? And he's like, yeah. And he found me one. Like, we were both willing to pay for the thing, but we were locked out of ESPN Plus. I don't even think my link worked. I'm not sure if his link worked either, but it's like the idea that, you know, paying $50 for a show versus the alternate ways to get them. I do wonder if eventually, you know, everything goes this way. When's the last time you paid money for like a non-wrestling thing on pay-per-view?
What would be a non-wrestling? Like boxing or
yeah, I've paid for boxing.
UFC.
Yeah,
I paid for boxing. UFC recently. Like the Jake Paul fight. I paid for the Jake Paul fight.
Have you bought like movies? I haven't bought a movie on pay-per-view in 20 years, probably.
No, I mean, like,
maybe
like
iTunes
every now and then there's like, yeah, but like if there's like on my Fire TV, you know, like my kids want to watch a movie that just came out, like I'll order the movie or something, rent the movie or something. But I actually order UFC all the time. I order AEW obviously all the time. Boxing I'll order if it's an intriguing enough fight. So I do. But remember, I'm old. I'm conditioned. Yeah. You're old, Garrett. We're conditioned to pay $49.99 or $59.99 for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Hey, TNA last week. TNA, that was a pay-per-view.
Did you buy that?
I did.
How was it?
I liked it. You know, the lighting looked as crappy as ever, but it was a fun show.
So you're thinking that we may have some more news next week about where this thing's going.
I would say by midweek next week we should kind of have a better idea of what's going on. You know, and this is positive. When people don't talk, that means that you are closer than farther away. If there was a negative here, you would have heard it from both sides to kind of, you know, change things around. I don't know what that money is. I don't know what the number's going to be. I don't know what, you know, depending on how this is bundled, I don't know what you would consider a positive and negative. I do know, though, a lot of people are under the impression that this deal ends sometime in October, November. It doesn't. It's January 2025, the current deal. Yeah. It expires. Yeah. It's not in October or November. I had to reach out because so many people were telling me that this deal ends in November, and I'm like, I don't think that's true. So I reached out, and it's January.
And that's because people are looking at when Dynamite debuted, right?
Yeah.
So you're thinking that it ends in October because the very first Dynamite was in October. Yeah. I think we do have a super chat. You want to check that one out?
Yeah, let's see. Trust the process. Regular. Do you expect the deal to be announced soon? That's our guy. Do you expect the deal to be done soon? As it's. Do you think that? I'm so sorry. It's moving, and I'm blind. Do you expect the deal to be announced soon, as it's done, or might it be? Would they hold it for a specific date? That's a good question. Would they hold it? You know, should they? Garrett, yesterday when I was walking to the train, I was on the phone with somebody from WBD, and I literally asked them this $4.99 question. Maybe if I gave him $5, he would have answered me straightforward. He said, I don't know why anybody would want to wait, but this is a non-wrestling person.
Yeah. Well, here's what's going to happen. I can tell you what's going to happen.
Tell me.
They may want to wait, like they may show on Dynamite, you know, Tony Khan has a special announcement for next week. The problem is the first person to verify it is going to post it, and so it'll be out there before, even if they wanted to wait.
Yeah,
it's just going to be out there.
You hear that? I'm going to beat you at that. You hear that, Dave?
It's going to be, and here's what's going to be kind of fun, right? Is it going to be Dave Meltzer? Is it going to be Sean Ross Sapp? We saw BJ Bethel over the weekend talk about the deal in principle. Is it going to be a wrestling reporter, Or is it going to be John Orand? Or is it going to be Austin Karp? Or is it going to be like these, these bigger media reporters to break that? Or is it going to be Shams Charania, who broke, at least he broke to a lot of people, Joe Biden stepping down. So that's the part that I'm going to be interested in. Alex Sherman, any of these folks who's interested, right? Because the wrestling folks are 100% interested in this, day by day. But someone like John Oran,
some of it is also a guessing game. Listen, some of it is a guessing game. I was at All Out. Geez, maybe I might go to All Out. Maybe Forbidden Door. There you go. That's the name. And I heard from 5 different people that the deal is done in principle. Now, is it or isn't it? I don't even know. Some of these people didn't. They're just guessing. It's a very safe thing to say that the deal is done in principle.
Isn't it?
That's why I'm not saying there's a contract signed, because I don't know if there is. But I've said it too. I've said the deal is done in principle because that's what I've been told.
Isn't it funny how those type of environments can be like just a giant game of telephone?
Oh, dude, I was told something so insane at the last pay-per-view I was at. What was it? Hold on. The World's End show. I knew Mercedes. Okay, Mercedes at World's End. I was told it was not going to happen. Okay, and that she was working Tony. I mean, this came from somebody in the know.
Okay,
or maybe in the know. I don't know. That she was working Tony, and that she never intended on going to AEW. And I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah, I heard the same thing.
True. Yeah,
I heard the same thing that you did once. BJ had tweeted last week about the thing in principle. People reach out to me going like, yeah, that's what people were saying in the back at Forbidden Door. So I'm fascinated by the whole thing. I hope that it's been fun for us to talk about. It's been great.
Oh yeah, blast
for this show.
What are we going to talk about the next 5 years?
UFC's coming up next, but that's not a giant topic. But okay, so we'll see all of these things. Hopefully next week we'll have more information. But also I wanted to mention the reason we haven't been as active is, shoot jobs are getting in the way here a little bit. So
very, very badly.
If you want to stay in the know about whether or not we're recording, the at WLP F4W Twitter account that we have, I usually am posting it there as soon as I know what our schedules are like. So, we never have been like a every week for months and months and months straight show, just because we do this, on our time off or on our lunch break, essentially for me. But if we don't have a show, make sure you're subscribed to that Twitter account, and I will make sure to post it. But we'll try and be here as much as we can. That's just the only promise that we can make, is if we are available, we will do it. Yeah, if we're available, we're going to do it. And if not, we can't.
And it's more me than Garrett. Let me just say that Garrett, maybe like twice this has happened. Me, I'm dealing with all different types of fires every single day. Normally the summers are slow for me. That is not the case this time around. Listen, I just got to redo my schedule. That's all, and I'll make time for it. Look, I love doing the show. It's not a matter of not wanting to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We love the show. We'll do it. We enjoy doing it, but we also, we also have real jobs outside of this. So, okay, I sent you a topic, and we'll spend, I don't know, the next 20 or 30 minutes with this topic. And since we hadn't recorded in a while, I don't even know what's working with you from the pro wrestling perspective. What angles do you like? What characters do you like? So I said, hey, I'm just going to ask you, what do you love about pro wrestling right now? What's working for you as a fan? And we'll go back and forth, because I wrote some things down as well about the things that I enjoy. But why don't you kick it off? Like, what are you enjoying right now in professional wrestling?
A lot of things, actually. I am enjoying TNA's little rise again. That's fun to see.
Do you like the partnership with NXT? Is that the part that you like about it?
I do like that. I think it's healthy. I think it's good for the talent. Forget about the tribalist nonsense. Like, some idiot on Twitter getting upset that TNA is now working with WWE. It does not matter. It's all about the talent, and that's what you want. It's great to see them getting exposure. Joe Hendry is unbelievable. I mean, what a great story for him. He's been doing the same gimmick for years. He was doing it overseas, and then he came here. It's getting over, and he's on NXT now, and people are losing their minds. It's great. I love that Ethan Page is NXT World Champion. Love that. Very well deserved.
He's kind of the perfect version of what would you chicken
what they want
heel champion.
Yeah.
And like, I'd be totally fine if he holds this title and then we redo the Trick Williams run on CW. I think that would actually be pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm into it. I think NXT's been really good. The last 2 weeks of Dynamite, I've enjoyed it. Like that match, people hated the form. Do you know how I ended up watching Dynamite last week?
No.
I watched it on the beach in Jamaica. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And you talk about VPNs. Yes. I tried every VPN to be able to watch this, and it hit me. Every single one. They're like, nope, sorry, not in your area, not in your area. I don't know. Maybe it's not available in Jamaica. Is AEW not available in Jamaica? Not Jamaica, Queens. Jamaica, the island. So I reached out to somebody at AEW. I said, can you throw a brother a bone? I can't watch the show. And they sent me something where I could watch it.
Oh,
I was able to watch it
Jim
with
Valley hookup here.
Oh, is that what Jim Valley has? He has like
I don't know. There's been some shows that Jim Valley has been able to watch, and I'm like, how did he get to watch that? That's like, it's like some sort of special view or something.
Yeah, they're very nice to me. Same with WWE. They're all very nice to me. So they were able to send me a link, and I was able to watch it. I love that it was formatted in a bonkers, crazy way. You don't see 3 matches on a 2-hour program with a 1-hour match to begin it. I enjoyed that. It was different. It brought me out of the ebbs and flows of expectation, and I got something very different. Very much liked it. I do like the CM Punk stuff. I do like Drew McIntyre. I'm glad that we're gonna finally move forward with this. I think WWE's been doing tremendous stuff. I'm curious to see what happens when Roman returns. The Paul Heyman stuff from a couple of weeks ago was tremendous.
Let's hold on the Drew thing. Let's talk about Drew, because Drew is on one of my lists. Now, you've been at the forefront of this idea, which is Drew McIntyre's title reign got screwed by the pandemic. And he didn't get to be the star that they were going to try and make him to be. And so I'm watching this CM Punk thing, and I am so interested. And look, Punk is great. This is not any shade at CM Punk, but the Drew McIntyre part of this is so interesting to me because his character is he's a bad person, but he's also right about a lot of things.
Drew.
Yes.
Drew. Yeah.
Yes. And CM Punk, he is a babyface, but he's kind of like a petty babyface at the same time. So the dynamic is interesting in that Drew McIntyre is playing a little bit more of that hero's role, but he's just kind of like a villain who you're waiting to turn. And I almost wonder if the idea is for both of these guys to flip sides, because if Drew McIntyre flips sides, I can see him being a giant babyface at a time, just because of he's strong, he's powerful, he kind of gets screwed by weasels. Like, it's setting us up, I feel, to something that could resemble a giant babyface turn for him. And I just think he's doing a tremendous job.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you pull it off, because here's my issue with this. I like Drew as a heel tremendously. I thought he was on the best babyface run that we had seen in 2020 prior to the pandemic. I thought that was, he was the Kingslayer. He eliminated Brock Lesnar, and he was going to beat him at WrestleMania. And I don't know what that run would have looked like we're still talking WWE with Vince running it. It's 2020. Who knows what would have happened? Bray Wyatt could have come out and cost them a match, and now he's back into like a feud that's going nowhere. The attention to detail this time around in this company is astronomical compared to what it was. So this may be the big run for him. This may be the big program. I was thinking about this, right? Do you remember all those bonkers like 4-way matches we got in like 99, 2000? Where it was like all the top guys. It's like Mick Foley, Triple H, Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Kane. It went on and on of the top tier talent that were just constantly intertwined and facing each other for the title. They have a very unique opportunity to be able to do that again because their top tier talent right now, that S level talent is very, very stacked. You have Drew, you have Punk, you have Cody, you have Roman, you have Seth, and then everybody else that's playing in that mix. Gunther,
coming up.
He's coming
Priest
up.
Is close.
Priest, the Bloodline. What's going on with the Bloodline?
Jacob Fatu, baby.
Yo, he's unbelievable. He is menacing, that man. He is scary,
It
scary
is
man.
Incredible because I've seen him do the act locally, and it's always gotten over locally. But to see him do it on the national stage, it's amazing because it's just so easy and it works so well. And I'm just like, I've been watching that thing, and it's incredible that it's working as well as it is nationally.
Hassan in our chat room, by the way, says, how many matches did CM Punk wrestle since he started with WWE? I think it's like 3. One was the Rumble, one was that LA show, and one was New York for the house show. And I got to see him at the New York one.
Yeah,
so,
you're right. You're right. The Dom match, undies, right?
He did the Dom match with the black undies because he didn't have his gear.
Whose gear do you think that was?
I don't know, but I've seen him wrestle once before in that black undie gear at a house show.
Yeah. Do you think when he realized he had to wrestle and he was wearing trunks, he had to find like a razor to shave his legs or something, right?
I guess so. He's doing the Chic body shaver that I use. Now I'll endorse that product.
You could teach you. You probably should have sent him some information here, dude. Here's how to do it. Because well, I mean, he's been wrestling in trunks.
Yeah,
before,
he's used to it. He's used to it.
All right, let me throw one at you, and I'm interested in what you think about this. AEW Women's Division is much improved thanks to, obviously at the top is Mercedes. She just brought a star power to this division that it was sorely lacking, and a credibility because of where she came from. Mariah May and Toni Storm, depending on how much of the gaga that you can stomach, I personally am not that turned off by it, by the black and white stuff. Can I ask you a
question? Yeah. Can I ask you a question about that? So I was watching and I was very distracted, by the way, right? Like the last couple of weeks I've been traveling.
You're on vacation, man.
Did you, the Mariah May coming out as Toni, okay?
Yeah.
She looked so much like her that the entire segment went over my head because I was watching, but I wasn't listening as much.
Yeah.
Until like a couple hours later, I went on Twitter and Tony Schiavone is just cussing up a storm, and I'm like, I'm like, wait a minute, but Tony's the babyface here. Why is he? And it took me embarrassingly like 15 minutes too long to figure out what the hell was going on. Listen, I like it. It got me.
I know some people who popped for that Shivani line. I don't know. I would not.
I thought it came out of nowhere. I didn't.
I would not call
it was a little daunting
on TV if I were him. No. So
especially the way you said it too.
So that segment last week on Dynamite seemed to be amiss to the live audience. They did not react to it. So maybe that wasn't the right thing for them to do, but I still think you got to give kudos to Mariah. You got to give kudos to Toni Storm. I think they've been doing a tremendous job telling the story. And hey, it's a long-term story, right? Look at what's happening on WWE with Liv and Rhea and Dom. Like, this is a long story that they're telling week by week by week. Let's keep doing these for the right stories. But also, just the Willow is because Willow, if she is not a star, she is right there. She's going to have a great match with Chris whenever they pay off that storyline. So I think the AEW women's division deserves some praise because I think it is the best that it's ever been. And I'm looking forward to the culmination of a lot of these products. Look, you get Baker back paired with Mercedes. That just feels important. Now, they're going to have to do it in the ring, and they're going to have to make that the match pay off, but just the build up to that is going to be incredible for All In as well. So I'm 100% in on the AEW women's division.
We got another super chat if you want to go into it.
All right, let's go for it.
$4.99 from Slim Reaper 35. Great username. Does Andrew have any thoughts or info on Sean Ross Sapp's report last week that AEW is looking into a possibility of a stadium show in Texas in the near future? So when did I put out about the stadium show? Somebody had asked me on Twitter if they were going to do a stadium show in the States.
Mm-hmm.
I was told that they were. My assumption was you're talking about Arthur Ashe. That's a stadium.
Right.
And shame on me for not looking into it more because I said no. I'm under the impression that they're looking at for this year they're looking at Arthur Ashe, but obviously they very much want to run a stadium show in North America. I mean, are they going to do it at Cowboy Stadium? I don't know. I mean, that's a crazy stadium to do.
There can't be a way for them to do that there. It's
you could do. Why not do a 40,000 person stadium?
Yeah, well, so people have been talking about the baseball park that the Rangers play in. I think you could really make that thing look nice. Could AEW put 25, 30,000 in there? I don't know. They'd have to have something really big. They'd have to really raise the game on their promoting. I'm not sure what match that would be, but I think that would be a kind of a cool deal. And so the reason why and thank you to Slim Reaper for doing my job for me, because this is something I've been wanting to ask you about. Next year, WrestleMania is in Vegas. Is AEW going to come back a month and a half later and do Double or Nothing in Vegas? I can't imagine so.
Well, the problem is that weekend, too. That weekend that they run is one of the most expensive weekends to go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And that is to a detriment of that company. I don't know if the Vegas thing is important at this level to do. Do you keep the tradition and keep going there? I don't know. It's very difficult. The numbers are dwindling every time they go. It gets less and less because you've saturated a market every year that relies on tourism, and that tourism is getting very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
When I was looking at flights to go that weekend, it was double the rate that people pay. And listen, people, the world is nutty. You don't have that throwaway money that you did during the pandemic era, which a lot of people are living off of, an extra $1,000 a week. So disposable income was great when they reopened and they started running the shows there, but the first year, fantastic post-pandemic. The second year was good, but a little less. And last year was way less. So I don't know.
Here's another question. Are you, because it's on Easter weekend, does that prohibit you from coming out to Vegas next year?
There is no chance I could go to my wife and say, hey, by the way, Easter Sunday, I'm out of here. I'm going to Las Vegas. Screw the family. That adult Easter egg hunt that we have when we're all loaded and your mom records us fighting over the eggs to get the golden egg with the $200 inside, that's out the window. I'm not doing that this year.
Okay, so that's a no.
That's a big no.
So basically that's what I was thinking, is if they do Double or Nothing somewhere different, maybe you do it at like that, and you'd have to do it indoors if you're going to do it in Texas, I believe, just because of the heat. Or the other thought I had was, I would imagine that if he can, Tony would like to keep All In at Wembley. Though, if you do it every other year, you kind of create you kind of reset the market again to make them, want you to be there if you go there every 2 years instead of every year, and maybe you do a show in the US that is all in kind of status, and maybe that is the opportunity to run a ballpark or a stadium. So
that has to be the opportunity for the ballpark show or a stadium show in the States. I think it would be a mistake to run Wembley another year. They went from what was the total number last year? 70 something? Or was it 80?
Like 78 or something.
78, yeah.
78
okay,
or
so you went from 78
like
to doing you'll probably do 50 now.
Yeah, I hope they get to 50. I think 50 would be a great number.
You're talking 28 to almost 30,000 less fans in the building. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yep. I hear you.
That's a lot of money. I think
it would be nice to be able to consistently go there and get 50, but it's also really, really hard. And so creating the idea that, let's have them miss us a year and then we'll go back. And if you can do that, then that would be pretty nice.
Yeah, listen, you could run another pay-per-view in the UK, and I think they should be going out there. I think that's that it's one of the best markets to bring an American product to. They're hungry for American content, especially live sports. We're seeing when the NFL goes there, the MLB goes there, they do tremendous business.
Mm-hmm.
It's out of the realm of everyday viewership for them, and that's a positive. Listen, TNA was doing these crazy buildings in their worst period in the UK. People forget that. It's a hot market for they're dying for content. And I say that in a positive way. I'm not disparaging that area. I think them running another year would be a mistake, but what the hell do I know?
All right, here's another thing that I'm really enjoying about professional wrestling. It is the G1. It is G1 season. I'm already behind, I'm sure, like everyone. I haven't seen any of today's show yet. But the thing that I am intrigued about, not only are there younger wrestlers and newer wrestlers who kind of have to be in the mix, because you take away a Jay White, you take away Kazuchika Okada, you take away a Will Ospreay, no Ishii. Like, there are mainstays in this tournament who are not wrestling, so somebody has to take their spot. So there's some new blood in there. Now, personally, I do miss those guys who are not in there, because that's like something to look forward to almost every day. The other thing I really like about this, New Japan has an announcer. His name is Walker Stewart. Now, I met Walker when they were in the Bay Area earlier this year for the New Japan show, Battle in the Valley. And Walker is a young dude. Walker is younger than both of my sons. That's how young he is. And so you talk about a guy who is very early in his career, and he is calling G1, which is so many matches, so many days, and all of it is high stakes because of how they run the tournament. Like, when I watch the G1, I always think back to my original thought about what AEW was going to be. Oh, it's going to be a little bit more sports oriented. Like, the wins and losses are going to matter. Very serious. Announcing is going to be serious, because I absolutely hate the AEW announce team. Like, Excalibur is good, but the other guys are just goofing off half the time. And I hear Walker Stewart. Now, Walker, I think one of the things that he's going to get better at in calling so many matches and calling so many, so many days in a row, is like, he's got his own things that he relies on that he's overusing, and he's going to figure out when to use those things and when to pull back. But think about the reps that this guy is getting announcing at such a high level. He is already I already enjoy him more than I enjoy any AEW broadcast when it comes to the actual announcing, the art of announcing pro wrestling. So that is the other thing I'm enjoying is me, I'm a broadcasting nerd. So I like looking at this stuff. And I think he's going to be so good in a couple years. Like everyone kind of goes back to the Kevin Kelly days. He harkens back to the Kevin Kellys. And Kevin Kelly, as an actual play-by-play guy, is excellent. And Walker he's got to get way more reps to kind of get to that level. But man, imagine, you doing a job in the very early stages of your career, and you're like you like have to be really good at it, or else you're not going to have that job anymore. There's some pressure there, but man, sky's the limit
he's fantastic.
with this dude. So people who
fantastic.
are paying attention to that, I really enjoy him. So, anything else that you enjoy before we do a quick preview of Blood and Guts?
No, I'm really big on Yota Tsuji. For the during the G1, I think he's tremendous. I'm hoping that he gets an opportunity. That there's something special about that guy. When you watch him, I've been really catching up. I've been playing a game of catch up. It was a lot of wrestling I had to consume the last couple days.
By the way, this would be the only time in this year's G1, or maybe even in G1 history, that I am ahead of Dave Meltzer in watching.
Wow, that's a first. Well, Dave's a busy man now.
Well, he took off Saturday completely. He was like, no wrestling on Saturday, and so now he's playing catch up. So, but yeah, I'm sure he'll pass me today at some point today.
What would you do? What would you do if Dave tweeted out, okay, and he goes, "Wrestling's whack. I'm done. I'm over it," and that's it. And that's how he ends it. It took all these years. All of a sudden now, he's over it.
Well, I mean, the reason why I'm still watching is really because of him and Brian. I mean, just their coverage. Because there have been moments where I came to that same conclusion. This sucks. Why am I even watching it? And then I just could not stop The Observer. I couldn't stop Wrestling Observer Radio. And that kept me in it. So if he actually did that, I would fear for my own wrestling fandom. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to keep up as much as I do. I know I wouldn't for a fact. So
it's so much more wrestling now than when we were younger, though, right? Like we never, and I'm curious if we had this much wrestling when we were, in our 20s. Let's say, I mean, that's not too long ago. How would we feel about wrestling now? It's so much. A part of the desire for me was to find stuff that was hard to find. Like ECW was like, you're not supposed to watch this. It's not on mainstream cable. Or, getting those tapes of All Japan and Misawa. Like, seeing a Misawa match for the first time, you're like, what the hell is this? It was something special because you couldn't go on YouTube and find everything you ever wanted. You had to, the lore of it kind of sold it. I'm curious how our perception would have changed about wrestling.
I'm sure I would have got burnt out. I can't imagine not being burnt out from now, because now, like, honestly, here's the other thing about my wrestling fandom. Dave and Brian kind of kept me in it and kept me interested. But what drives me to keep up with it is doing stuff like this. Like, if I didn't have Friday's Wrestling Observer Radio, if I didn't have Tuesdays We're Live Pal, I may not be like, oh yeah, do I have to watch Raw, or do I just let this one pass by? I would probably skip a lot more stuff than I do now. And even today, as much as I try and keep up with, I'm lucky if I get to Collision. And if Collision doesn't have a show that I'm even halfway interested in, it's just kind of on the but by the wayside.
Dude, that's the easiest show for me to watch. I mean, it's really,
I know it's your favorite show.
It's my favorite show because I have nothing to think about outside of consuming that on a Saturday night. It's the only wrestling show where I'm not putting out 500 fires.
Yeah, but it's also
with the ratings this week too.
It's also good for your Sunday show as well because it's fresh in your mind. The thing about that the Saturday show that I thought was interesting. So the WNBA All-Star Game does like almost 3.5 million viewers, which is their highest viewership this century.
Yeah.
and the AEW held up really well. Do you think? I think Joe Biden is supposed to speak on
On
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Is that going head up against Blood and Guts?
Probably 9:00 probably he's coming on,
Okay,
right?
so the second hour
Second hour.
of Blood and Guts. Do you think that chops into the AEW rating at all?
I don't know. I think we sometimes not a chance. He said.
Producer John.
Sometimes, yeah, producer John. I think it will definitely play a part. I don't know if it's 50,000 or 100,000 or nothing. I sometimes think we look at other avenues as an excuse, and at times, yeah, that there is a reason why people tuned out of AEW. But at the end of the day, same thing with WWE. At the end of the day, if you're creating captivating, interesting programming, people are going to watch that 1 hour match, right? Historically, anytime you have a match like an Iron Man match or historically a long match, that number starts going down and down and down. That number held in the 850s, whatever that number was, the entire time because they made it interesting, because you didn't know when it would end. You didn't know who was going to win. And then when you thought it was going to be a tie, they swerved you. They hit every point to keep the audience with that match. It's 8:00, not 9:00. Bob McGee in the chat room corrected me. It depends also how quick it is. It could be a 5-minute thing. It could be a 10-minute thing.
I just here's why I wonder, which is when he stepped down. I don't know what your timeline looked like, but my timeline on Twitter was going crazy. Obviously, different perspectives. It doesn't really mean anything. Yeah. But there was so much energy that had been missing from the Democratic side that I was like, oh my gosh, these people are going wild right now. And I just wonder if that tempo and that rhythm and that momentum is going to affect AEW. It may not. And look, yeah. I don't even know what affects AEW ratings outside of, sometimes sports and sometimes not. And we know that it's mostly WWE will affect it. But I think I would be kind of bummed, a little bummed at least, if AEW's rating wasn't affected, because this is like such
it's just people have no interest in real life.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time in politics. Yeah. I'm with the people, like sometimes like the politics stuff is what it is, and sometimes it's just a giant turnoff. But just the idea of something in politics kind of like being historic in the way that this is, I would kind of be a little disappointed if there was.
Do you know? Can I tell you something about my timeline? I have almost no politics on my timeline, and when I do see politics on my timeline, I mute the person.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what side you're on. I that is I like my timeline is mostly for memes, bullshit stuff, and wrestling. That's it. That's all I really. And Seinfeld. I follow a lot of Seinfeld accounts. I like to keep my sanity as much as I can, and it's very difficult on social media. I try to keep it as close to normal as possible. Listen, I don't know. It's I think the biggest uphill challenge for anything on TV really is TikTok. That's your big battle. That's really where everybody is living right now. And it's wild to me. Short form content immediately doing this has become the norm. And I think that's the biggest challenge for AEW, WWE, or anything out there.
But can't you do that while also having a television on? Isn't that what is also attractive about it? Is you're doing something while you're doing something else?
I guess so. It's possible. Like my wife and I watch TikTok on our TV. I have it on the Fire app. So we get a bottle of wine and we just go on to, that's literally and it's such a weird way to consume it, because I really don't. I'm working on the train. When I'm going to work. I'm rarely consuming TikTok on my phone. It's just like I use these services like social media. I barely tweet or do Instagram from this. Maybe Instagram you have to kind of, right? But I'm barely on there. But whenever I'm tweeting on a desktop. I don't like doing
most of
it
the
on
time.
the phone.
Me too. Most of the time, me too.
But again, back to what we said before. We're old.
Yeah,
we're conditioned a very different way.
Yeah, people who don't like using computers, really, they'd rather use a device.
I do think that plays a part in this. I don't know if it's going to make. I'm curious. I don't know if it's going to do it. You know what? I'm going with. It's not going to really affect the numbers. That's what I'm going with.
Well, I think based on what you just said about MJF and Will Ospreay, I think they may open with blood and guts, right? Because if you think about what the strategy seemed to be, now I don't know, I haven't talked to Tony about this. The strategy seemed to be utilize your lead-in, and Kaylee Cuoco was like, "Hey Tony, are you happy now? You got a good lead-in. You actually lost viewers from us. You don't have to worry about the tune-in, but." If the idea was people come from that show from Big Bang Theory, and generally our show starts with those folks, and it is the peak of our viewership. Let's try and build from there, and which is what they did with MJF and Will Ospreay. I wonder if they kick off the show with blood and guts and try and do a similar thing, which is run a 45-minute match to an hour match to start the show, keep people invested, and see if you can kind of do the same thing that you did last week.
Yeah, I don't know. I like seeing those early matches, a big match to open up the show. It kind of sets the tone, and it really did set the tone of that show. We didn't really get much after that match. We got that Mercedes match, which was fine. Mercedes looked really good. We got promo.
You got Okada, who I guess has never had sex in his life.
Oh, horny Okada. I'm into this guy. Oh, he was fanning himself. Whoo, he did one of those. He became a big cartoon.
My God.
You know what's unbelievable? I never thought Okada would become a television character over being a pro wrestler. But Okada just not giving a shit.
Cash and checks Okada.
It is so good. And the fact that he did nothing in that match with Swerve in the main event, he has done nothing. And I'm not saying it as, well, he's doing nothing in that company. He has had to do nothing in that company. And I love seeing him every time he's on TV. The fact that the Bucks asked Mercedes to see the dance because Okada wants to see it, and he was, hyperventilating, like he's never seen anything. It was like he was on AOL and he was waiting for that image to download.
Yeah, 28K speed, download speed.
Yeah. Who was it? Who was it? Cindy Margolis? Wasn't that the most downloaded woman on the internet?
Tammy Sitch.
Tammy was in 1996 for AOL. Yeah, I remember that photo, and it would stop right around here while you're trying to download it. Okay.
All right. Well, I know we were talking about. We were supposed to talk about Blood and Guts. Let's wrap it up here.
All right.
Blood and Guts. Maybe the least interested Blood and Guts that I've been. The build has been
me too.
Funky. I'm not even sure what each team gets out of this match. There are no stipulations. Nothing happens to the Bucks if they lose. I don't know. So I mean, it's a match, and it'll probably be really good, and we'll move on from here. But yeah, not too interested in this one for whatever reason.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm sure it'll be a fine match. But yeah, I have the least amount of interest in this one.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll see if we're back. I don't want to make any promises, but like I said, WLP F4W on Twitter, that will be where I will make sure to let folks know if we do not have a show, because I do get pinged every once and again, but that's where you can make sure to find out. But Andrew, it was fun. I was glad to see your face. I was glad to hear producer John in my headphones. So for Andrew, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.